Hello and welcome to another edition of the E-commerce Odyssey podcast. I'm here with Issac Kuhlman from Real Coaching. Isaac, tell us about what you do.
Yeah, so thanks for having me, Trevor. It's great to be here. And so what we do, what I do inside of Real Coaching is basically we obviously help Amazon sellers who sell FBA private label products, meaning their own brands of products, scale and grow their business through strategic development and also through coaching them. So, it's one thing to have a plan. It's one thing to have instructional videos, but then once you start putting it in place, you're going to have questions, right? So that's where we kind of jump in. We look at their business. We don't just like hypothetically give them answers to, random scenarios that they can come up with. They'll say, here's what I'm dealing with in my business. Here's my metrics. Here's my, products and all my listings. How do I actually make this thing better? And that's when we do some deep research with them, have that conversation and actually help them move forward. And, say you're at one place, right? So you just started selling, you got your first product online. We'll tell you kind of how to scale and grow that one product, but then also how to implement and find more products for that brand or that product line. And if you are, selling $100,000 a month, well, we'll take you from that position and then grow you from there. So how do you, make the products you have better, get rid of the ones that aren't working, scale and find other products, and then obviously do the marketing procedures properly all the way through.
Okay. So what is it that people find the most difficult?
Well, I think that,
or is it just, does everyone find different things difficult?
There's a couple. I would say there's two main things. And the two main things that most people find most difficult are finding the right products.
Right.
And then the advertising. So Amazon PPC, or what they call Amazon advertising. So the reason why the finding the products is so hard is because it has been kind of, a blown up e-commerce model over the last 8 years is when I started. And so in that last 8 years, it feels like it's been a million years. And there's been, literally millions and millions of sellers since that, since I joined that have come in. Most of them have it's kind of like come and go, but more come in than leave. So there will be a lot of products out there. I mean, there's millions of products out there, but the reason why people get so stuck on finding products is because they only think about the things that they want to sell, not necessarily things that they can sell to make money. And what I mean by that is, if you think about like all the things right now in your head, just like what would I sell if I was on Amazon, right? You probably think of very common items, things that, big brands would sell, or, things that other people have already picked up on. And that's the common model for most of the training courses out there is they'll say, here's how to find products. They'll give you a specific filter. And then everybody who uses that filter goes out and finds the exact same products. We have a bit of a different strategy. We obviously go out there, we kind of give them some concepts. Like obviously you have to have a budget. You have to know your budget. You can't overspend your budget. Here's the product you have to kind of, we're not giving them a list or anything. We're just saying, here's the kinds of products that you might think about. So one good one is instead of selling the thing, sell the thing that goes with the thing. So for example, you don't sell, an iPhone, but you might sell iPhone screen protectors. Now that was one of the first things that I started selling. That one's super competitive because it's such a cheap product that is massively, there's massive sales there. So it's overly competitive now. But when I first started 8 years ago, that was one of the main products that we were selling at the time. But yeah, if you think about the things that go with the thing more often, and you just look around, like what goes with that thing. A lot of people like to bundle things together. So they'll take one thing and then throw another thing that doesn't have anything to do with it, or is somewhat related, but doesn't need to be bought together. Like, for example, like you might get, let's just say a gravy boat. I had gravy this morning for my biscuits and gravy. So you get a gravy boat. Well, then they're going to throw a gravy ladle in with the gravy boat, but you don't need a gravy ladle with a gravy boat because the gravy ladle is a separate product, right? So you can sell those as two separate products. Whereas most people think like you have to bundle them so that way you can sell them together, which is not necessarily true. You just need to have a good product, good marketing message, good pricing, all the stuff that you would want to be served as a customer. So serve that to your customer.
So your thing is really creating, because a lot of people say, okay, you need to find, you go on and find products which, where there's key phrases where people aren't, the products aren't appearing, or there's products which are badly optimized. Are you more of the point of view that people just, you need to have good quality products that, and start from that situation?
Yeah. So think about it in terms of customer service, right? When I think of a business, I don't think of like, hey, I'm going to sell you something. It's, hey, I'm offering you a solution to a problem. That's like literally how businesses started. You had a solution to someone else's problem. They pay you for that in some way. And then you take the money for that and then obviously solve their problem. So if you switch the thinking from, hey, let's go out and find something that just sells really well. That actually, especially if it connects to you and the problems that you have in a day, you can flip that around. So instead of just going on Amazon and searching everything that you can possibly sell and looking at every random keyword, we call it long tail, right? So if you type in, a longer tail keyword, you might find, easier competition. Well, in reality, the sales might not actually be there, because all the tools that we have available to us to help us find sales volumes and such, it doesn't define it by keyword, right? So like if you look at, let's just say gravy boat with ladle, let's say that's the keyword I'm looking for, thinking like I'm going to sell gravy boat with ladle. Okay. But then you see like all these gravy boats that are selling really well at the top of that page. That's not necessarily where they're getting the sales. They're probably getting the sales from gravy boat or gravy ladle, right? Because separately, they probably have really high sales volume and high search volume. But that one keyword in the middle, just because you wrote it longer, doesn't mean it's actually going to make it easier to compete. So you're taking out more gravy boats and more gravy ladles and giving yourself that false hope that you can actually rank on this page easier. You can rank on that page easier, but that doesn't mean that the sales are driven on that keyword. So you have to have kind of a sweet spot. I kind of call it the Goldilocks scenario. So, the Goldilocks, it's too hot, too cold. It's just right. Right. So you have to find, say this one's way too competitive, too broad. So gravy is too broad, right? Because there's things that are there that aren't gravy boats. And then you can't put in gravy boat with ladle or gravy boat ceramic with ladle or something like that, because that's too much, right? So you have to just call it what it is, gravy boat. That's what you're looking for. If you change that keyword, the sales data and all that extraction data that you're going to find to do research is going to be skewed, and you're going to have it's going to make it clear that if you say you have a $10,000 budget for a product, you go in there and do the research, and we actually have tools that help you analyze, what's the competition like? How much money will you actually need to spend for marketing? How much is that launch process going to cost? How much does your products cost? How many units are you going to need to kind of launch that product? And then if you put us all through this tool, essentially at the end, it'll tell you, can you afford to launch this product successfully? Now, anybody can launch any product on Amazon. I'm not going to say you can't, but to expect to get like 1 or 2 sales, why would you waste your time to launch a product on that product, right? So if you're on page 3 and you're getting 2-3 sales a day, but it took you 6 months to get this product live and you spent $20,000 on it, why did you waste the effort when you know your return on investment is going to take 2-3 years for just that one product, right? So we try to find things that are, a little bit more kind of in that niche of it's a good product. It's not overly competitive. It fits your budget, and you can actually make a good product and compete. Yeah. So we go through a pretty high vetting process through that. We have it's a spreadsheet tool that we have, and then we can actually analyze it at that time. But yeah, the other main issue, I think, and just to go back to the second part of that, was the Amazon advertising, right? So the reason why people have a big issue with the Amazon advertising is they just don't understand data that much, right? So they understand how to run it. They understand how much how much spend versus sales they're getting. So like, hey, you spent $300, you got $1,000 in sales. That returns a pretty good investment. So it's like 33% or whatever, right? 30%. But then when they go and say, I don't know how much that means in terms of my bottom line, how much profit that's taking away from my bottom line, that's where they get confused. Because the first thing everybody who's an existing seller will tell us is, I'm losing all my profit to Amazon ads. And that's literally like, 99% of existing sellers will truly believe that. But then when you actually go through and look at like, what's the percentage of this, profit coming away from your business? How much profit are you making per month? How much is that taking away? What percent of sales are coming from ads versus actually organic ranking? That's when you can start to really see.
So looking at a broader kind of picture across the whole business.
Exactly. Basically. Most people are just focused on what the data from the campaigns are telling them and the Amazon PPC.
So you say look at the whole account, look at across the whole account. So would you say, I run a retail business as well, right? And I've always thought that it's better to have a range of several products that are kind of performing respectively.
Yeah.
Because they tend to continue to perform respectively.
Yep.
Whereas if you've got something which does, goes up, it's almost certainly going to come straight back down again. And loads of other people will pile in and try and do similar products.
Yeah.
And whereas I've got some kind of respectively selling products which have been selling for like 10 years, and no one gets that excited about them, but it's a gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
the
I sell
kind
an ice scraper. Who the hell gets excited about that?
Yeah, but I mean, probably sells 50 ice scrapers a day or whatever.
Well, in the
And
UK on my birthday this year on November 29th, I sold 966 units in one day, which was pretty nice.
well, it was a particularly cold day, presumably.
Yeah.
So
I was like,
suspect.
nice. Keep it cold in the UK for just one more day.
Well, so someone bought it on Amazon.com and got it shipped to the UK, or
Oh
was
no, I
it?
sell in the UK as well
Oh, right,
on
you got an FBA, okay.
Amazon.co.uk, but yeah.
Cool. So tell me, what was so you work as a retailer as well?
I do not. I literally just sell on Amazon. I mean, I put like a Shopify store out there, but I don't.
Well, I say
generate any
you run an
sales
Amazon business, retail business, as well as doing coaching.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so I have my own brands. I have two brands actually right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I mean, how many products do you have in your brands? If it's not don't tell me. How big's your portfolio?
Yeah, so the first one I started about 5 years ago. It's more of like I wouldn't say an experiment, but it's more of like an example.
Yeah.
So it's the one with the ice scraper in it. It's an automotive category product or a brand. And I've been selling that for 5 years. That one only has 3. It had 4, took 1 away. It only has 3 products. I'm actually going to be winding 2 of them off and keeping 1. It's like I said, it's more for like just use of data and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To show as a case study. But then I've just started another brand in October, late September of 2020. It's got 3 products, and I'm going to be launching another probably 2 or 3 in the next year. So that one's pretty new. What I try to do is I try to scale it at a way that a normal person would do it, instead of saying, here, let's throw $100,000 and then blow it up and just show that, you can still make a bunch of money out there. You can get sales like if you just spend a lot, but that doesn't mean you're going to get profit. So the goal with every business that I run is to try to make profit.
You can always sell dollars for $1,
Yeah, $5 for $1. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so what is your there's a lot of programs out there, right? Yeah. What makes your one special? Why should people choose you above other people?
Yeah, and so this is a unique thing that we've been doing for 5 years now. 2016 is when we started, but basically when we first started, we found that it was always everything was a training course. You could go on YouTube, or you could go find, a $5,000 training course, go buy it. Yeah, sure, they'll have like a forum where you can ask questions, and yeah, sure, they'll have like a question and answer thing, but it was all generic. It was like hypothetical situations. Nobody was allowed to talk about their products. Nobody could talk about their brands. Nobody brought up, no coach coach, as I call them, would ever look at anything you're doing to help you personally, right? So we looked at other business models, and my co-founder, my partner, Kirsty Verity, she and I started talking about that time, and I was like, why don't people talk about their businesses? Like if you ran a restaurant, you would certainly go ask other people in the restaurant business for help on how you run a better restaurant, or, anything, right? So why can't we as Amazon sellers go out and ask other people for help? And they can look at our business and have mentors like that, right? So we just said, well, we're going to do it. We're going to try it. So we have like non-disclosure agreements, non-compete clauses and stuff like that. So we have that kind of, backup, so that way people feel confident about it. But yeah, we actually show our products to all of our members. We show, they show their products to us, and we work through the process of, what's holding you back. So if you look at their metrics, that's where it really starts. Like if you have an existing business and you don't know what your key metrics are in your business, you don't know, you're flying blind. Like you have no idea what to fix. Is your conversion low? Well, we have ways to fix that. Are your sessions low? We have ways to fix that. Is your profit low? Fix that, right? So there's definitely things, keyword ranking, reviews, ratings, all that stuff matters. Your pricing versus your competitor, all that stuff matters. But if you don't know that, and you're not really thinking outside of your own perspective, you're just thinking, I'm going to raise the price so I can get more profit. Well, you're probably shutting off a lot of sales that you could have got and actually made more money in that process. So there's ways to really think about business holistically, that you might be, fragmenting it and only looking at it from certain angles. Whereas a person who comes in and looks at your business can actually look at it very quickly and say, here's 3 key things that I think you can fix right now to move forward. And same thing when people are starting a business, right? Like, how do you find your first product? If you don't have help trying to figure that out, I mean, most people do one of 2 things. They either launch their first product, it goes well, then they run out of stock, and then they have to reorder it. And by the time they reorder it, it's kind of dead, and then they never recover. Or the second thing is they launch it not knowing how competitive it is, and they never make money. And then they think the whole thing is a scam, and they never want to sell on Amazon again. So yeah, if you don't have help, those are the two options that you basically end up having. Neither one of those roads is a fun road to go down. That's why you need some of that, guidance. If I'm putting $15,000, $20,000 into something, don't you think I'm going to go ask somebody for help before I do that? Like, of course I would. I put money into the stock market and investments like that. I don't just do that blindly. I go talk to people who know what the hell they're talking about and ask them what they're doing and how that would actually make sense and what things to look for. And that's when that actually, that's when you can actually make a more confident decision moving forward. And that's the one thing that we've done for years that almost nobody else does. As far as I know, nobody else does it the way.
So it's the hands-on. So you think you're much more hands-on than other.
Yeah. So we don't onboard like 1,000 people at a time or anything like that. We basically stick to about 20, 30 people at a time. So that way we can work hands-on with them, just like a classroom, right? It's like, you're not going to get training delivered to you accurately if 1,000 people are coming in at a time, right? That's what most training programs try to do. They try to get everybody on board, take the money, and then figure out the problems later. Whereas we thought ahead, like, what results do we want the customers to get? So the members need to get a product. They need to get better sales, more profit, whatever, right? So we started with the problems and then reverse engineered it to how can we fix that? And the main thing that kept coming up was hands-on.
So do you have a certain cohort you take on in one go? And tell us how you structure it?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. So we basically will say, well, it's not like a start, stop, finish, like a start and stop kind of thing. It's more fluid, but we do have, like, we onboard people monthly. So that way we can work through, all the problems they have and then move forward. Now, we don't have a specific set start, time, start and stop time for everybody. We can work with people as long as they need to be worked with, right? So they need a year and a half or 3 months or whatever it is. Like, everybody needs a certain different thing. And then obviously the coaching programs are tailored to that need. So we try to help people where they are for as long as they need help. And then obviously show them how to scale that business, as a smarter, better business owner versus let's do it for you. Let's do a service for you. Here's that product. We just launched it for you and you know nothing about how it's done. And when you do that, if you have everything done for you, you tend to not be able to replicate the process. So once you pay for that service, you can't do it again. So you then have to go back and pay for that service again. Whereas we kind of, if I can equate it to an analogy, it'd be like the dentist, right? The dentist tells you brush your teeth every day, floss every day, do mouthwash, protect your teeth, right? Whereas, everybody else is just treating your symptoms. Like doctors are only treating your symptoms. They're not necessarily treating the root cause of what's causing it, right? So we're like the dentist. We don't necessarily want you to have to be in this position where you need us, but when you do need us, or most people will need somebody to help them, we want you to be able to understand how to treat the root causes of the business from essentially failing. So that way you can actually build it properly yourself, with or without us in the end game, right?
So do you think, are you a fan of, so your clients and yourself, I mean, is it white label or own label products that people are mostly? Yeah.
So, it's private label. Some people kind of intermingle the terms white label and private label. White label usually means you're taking somebody else's product and putting
someone else's product, putting a label on it. Right? Yeah. An own label, things developed from scratch. Yeah.
So we do, white label in that version would be the term that we would say. Doing it from scratch, like an invention or something, that would be pretty tough. Or even like just altering something quite significantly is usually pretty tough, unless you know that there's demand already there and you're just tweaking certain things to make it better. I have seen several people do that, which is great. They have an insight of a product and say, you know what, I can probably sell it for a little bit more if I include this stuff that makes it better. It's not like I'm including extra products in there. I'm including, it might be a new version of that product. And when they do that, it usually works out pretty well. But yeah, you can't invent something and sell it on Amazon. Cause again, people usually search through a keyword, right? Unless there's a very specific keyword that you can launch on, get ranking for, and you believe that people will buy yours on that thing. I'm going to make something up here, but let's just say I've got a new product called a toilet flusher, something that makes your toilet flush without you having to do anything, right? So I don't know what that would look like, but I don't think a lot of people are going on Amazon right now and typing in toilet flusher to see what is there, right? Like no one's really thinking of like, hey, I want something to flush my toilet. No, it's if there is, I can't imagine it's a high search volume. So you can't just make stuff up and then go out and sell it because no one's looking for it. You can do that on stuff like Kickstarter or Indiegogo or whatever, where, you know, you can get people, but you usually have to have a list or a big marketing budget for that. You know, if you have to educate an entire consumer base on what a product is. Yeah. So if you have to
it's really
educate an
about
entire
finding,
consumer base, it costs money.
your clients will go onto sites like Alibaba and find products and rebrand them using their own branding.
Yeah. So obviously using Amazon as the catalyst for the products that they're looking for, then they see the type, you know, they'll buy their competitors' products, see what it's like, how good it is, what kind of marketing stuff they'll do. They'll go contact factories. We actually suggest using sourcing agents, which are people in China who help you find, you know, the better factories, not just Alibaba factories, because Alibaba, if anybody's ever used that, everybody knows it's a Chinese to Western civilization kind of site where they'll lure you in with basically saying yes to everything. And then terms change, prices change, quality changes by the time you get to the actual product, because most of the time you're not talking to a factory representative, you're talking to a salesperson on the Alibaba website who's kind of loosely interacting with a factory. And they basically just say, yeah, let's get you on and we'll move forward. Sometimes it ends up being a good thing. But likely if you're doing that sourcing that way, you're probably overpaying for cost of goods and you're probably not putting together the best payment plan. And you're probably not getting the best quality that you can for the price. So we have a different scenario where we say, go contact sourcing agents in China, help, basically hire them to help you find the best quality products, the best price within your budget and within your, because I always use the golden toilet scenario. You can make a toilet golden, cover it in gold, but you're gonna have to sell it for $1 million. So who's going to buy $1 million toilet? Probably very few people. That's like on Amazon, you can make the world's greatest product, but if you have to sell it for like 3-4 times the normal price, it's probably outpriced, right? So like the average consumer is not going to buy it. People on Amazon want great quality, which means great price, great product. So you don't have to create the world's greatest product. You just have to have a very good product at a very good price.
Good for the price, basically. A good.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
So
no golden toilets.
I mean, do you think that it's? I like that. Yeah. Do you think it's becoming more difficult to sell on Amazon? I mean, is it becoming more competitive all the time?
I mean, it is. There's no, the phrase that a lot of people use is the best time to sell on Amazon was 5 years ago. The next best time is today because it's only going to get more and more competitive, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not harder to sell than 8 years ago when I started. It is, but the things that we have available now make losing money a lot less likely if you actually follow strategies. Mm-hmm. When I say that, I mean, if you know the inherent strategies and the inherent risks of going into overly competitive products, you probably will shy away from that. If you know it's out of your budget, you won't do that. However, if you go in blindly, just putting a certain amount of money in, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, and don't know the risks of that category or that product, then you will likely lose all that money. If you know what you're doing, and there's better resources now than there ever have been, if you know what you're doing, you're less likely to lose that money, because I won't guarantee that you can make money. I would probably guarantee that you can sell the products that you have at a certain price to at least probably break even, or really, limit the amount of money that you lose on your initial investment for pretty much any product. Now, I can only say that if you follow certain steps, right? Like if you go out there and then get frustrated because it's not selling, and then you dump the whole thing and say, well, I give up. Well, you're going to lose your investment, right? Like that's the easiest way to lose your investment is to quit. But there are ways to go out there and sell products every single day, especially using PPC or Amazon advertising at certain price where you break even on your initial investment or do better. Sometimes you might lose a little bit of money, but at least you're not losing it all, right?
So what kind of time period would you suggest people look at in terms of kind of breaking even?
Yeah, I mean, so it obviously depends on every product, and I'm not going to give like a very specific timeline, but you shouldn't expect to, especially if you're brand new and never sold and don't have any products, if you've never sold on Amazon, you should not expect to be up and selling in less than 4 months. Mm-hmm. It should take 4 to 6 months probably for you to at least get your first product up and running. Because if you think about it this way, manufacturing usually takes 3 weeks to 4 weeks for most products. Shipping, if you do it by sea, because it saves you a lot of money, will take 30 to 40 days, maybe sometimes up to 60, especially right now with delays. So that's 3 months right there, basically, right? Mm-hmm. So if you think you're going to get your first product in the first 2-3 months, well, you're not considering reality, right? Because there's 3 months of manufacturing and shipping that has to happen there. Plus Amazon has to check it in. So that's like another week to 10 days. So you're really looking at 3 months of production lead time, plus however long it takes you to figure out what you're looking for. So if it takes you 3 months to decide on a product, that's fine. Then it takes you another 3 months to get it into Amazon. That's totally fine. That's a pretty good thought process for when you're actually going to get it to be starting to sell. Now, when you're looking to actually break even or make profit, it's likely going to be not on the first order. So the first order usually is supposed to last you 2 to 3 months, and then maybe up to 4. So that first order is probably not going to make much money, if any, because you got to invest in the launch. Probably will lose some money. But on the second order, that's when you'll actually start to kick in. So you should start seeing some money come back in. Just logically speaking through the scenario here or the process, you should start seeing money come back to you 7, 8, 9, 10 months down the road, and then maybe even break even for the entire investment by the end of the year.
Okay,
most
so at least
most
a
businesses
year,
will not have that, right?
If you're looking for like so you're saying basically things should start to look up after about a year.
Yeah. I mean, that's
seems...
every brand I've ever seen. Like even when I started my brands, I don't expect to pay myself much in the first year. Like, sure, you can, like, if you have a good month, like in December or something, you go through like a quarter 4 and it does really well, you can take a little money. I did that. I actually took $2,000 out of the business, went on a vacation with my wife to Mexico. And that was just the one thing I did from the first year of my business. That next year, I think I paid myself like $30,000 or $35,000 just, and I didn't need it. Like I had other income means, but I just paid myself that. So that way the business wasn't hogging all the money. So I had to run it on a certain level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think are the most important skills required when building an Amazon business?
There's a lot.
There's obviously, because there's what I mean is there's so many different aspects to it. There's the kind of, there's the business side of it. Yeah. There's the kind of knowing about Amazon side of it. There's the selecting products. What do you think are what are the top 3 things that people need to be good at, or? I
would say definitely top 3. Perseverance, because if you quit, you fail. If you don't quit, you can still succeed, right? So perseverance is
excellent advice for life.
Yep. Problem solving still comes better than anything. Like in anything that you ever do, if you can find solutions to problems, you will figure out how to be successful on Amazon, especially if you have somebody helping you. And then 3, be analytical in the sense that if you know your metrics, they guide a lot of the decision process. If you're afraid of numbers and just don't like looking at a spreadsheet, and I know they get intense and they can be kind of intimidating at first, but if you don't get comfortable with learning spreadsheets and profit and losses and all that stuff and what goes in, what comes out, if you don't like that, do not start a business. Do not run an Amazon business. Don't try to do anything that is not just getting a paycheck, because that requires very little analytical skill aside from whatever work you're doing to keep getting that money, right? If you have to learn how to make money for yourself, you have to know everywhere that you have to look in your business to try to make that better, to basically profitize it, right?
It's constantly exhausting.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the one thing, like somebody said to me one time.
Good at it, I'll let you know.
Yeah. Somebody one time said to me, like, can I do this if I don't have my PPC optimized? And I was like, what does that mean? Like, well, she said fully optimized. I was like, I don't think you'll ever have anything in your business fully optimized. That's the process. You're never going to be perfect at anything. You'll try to achieve 99%, right? So like you've got it 99% and then you just turn some screws here and there. But that's the whole thing. You've got to keep doing that to try to keep maximizing your profit.
I mean, sometimes the problem is, it's just getting that extra, 10% or something, because you're always like thinking, can this be better? Can this be better? Can this be better? It must be able to get this better. And you spend so long playing around with it. And as you play with things, you break them. That's my experience. And I wish that particularly this is not so much with Amazon, but it's more with things like Google, Google pay-per-click.
Yeah.
That the more you play with it, and the system has to then readjust, and the performance actually gets worse. And I think sometimes I just think, God, just get it to a certain state where it's respectable and just leave it and just be happy with it being.
Well, and think about it this way. Once you do something, your competitors are likely reacting with certain ways that they're going to try to fix things, right? So
it's called a
you're not the only
race, I believe.
Yeah. You're not the only actor out there.
Run very fast to stay still. So where do you think Amazon is heading as a platform? Do you think, for example, it's obviously become very brand focused these days. Is it, do you think that they're going to, it's going to have big regulatory problems? Do you think that it's going to have to choose between being a marketplace and being a retailer? What do you think? What are your kind of feelings about where it's going?
I honestly think because Amazon has grown to the point where it's grown to that. I don't know if you ever read, I think his name's Philip Dick. He wrote some sci-fi novels back in the 50s, and they did some Amazon Prime adaptations of his novels. But in one of them, they actually have this kind of like Amazon thing, like this warehouse where basically everything revolves around that company, right? So Amazon, in my opinion, will probably be the closest thing to a completely controlling, monopolized company the world has ever seen in the next 20, 30 years. And what I mean by that is they will practically own all the retail space, either physically or virtually, in the United States and much of other Western countries. In the next 20 to 30 years, they will systemize their processes to where they profit more than anybody else on the platform, obviously. So there are now people they call Amazon aggregators that are buying up brands, putting them together and trying to package them up for venture capitalists to put money into it. So that way their money grows, and it's like better than bank return, right? So like they're putting money in, they're taking money out with dividends. These things will start to happen. You'll start to see big companies with big venture capitalist money come in, try to monopolize the third party marketplace. The whole time, Amazon's going to be basically capitalizing off of that, knowing exactly that just because they're out there doesn't mean that they're going to do it better than the third party brands that sold to them. So they're going to basically be scooping up all these profits from them. And then basically it's going to become a very narrow and bleak scenario where either it's Amazon or the aggregators. And this is still 20, 30 years away. So we're talking this, there's still room here. But in the end, it will be more like a monopoly, I think, than anything that we've ever seen. I mean, Walmart's probably the next closest thing to a monopoly, where they try to go out and get a 10 share in every single market. So like they actually even talked about doing an automobile about 10, 15 years ago, and it didn't go through, but you'll see things like that from Amazon. They've tried doing phones. They're doing some other stuff. You'll start to see them doing all that stuff like Apple's doing, like, Google's doing, Tesla's obviously out there trying to do some things. But in the end, I think honestly, you're going to see Amazon on the moon, and we're going to be harvesting moon rocks from the moon.
I think that it's, I mean, Amazon is a monopoly, and you can see the monopoly in the way they treat their third-party sellers, and they treat the third-party sellers awfully. Yeah. Right. And I think that, what monopolies do is they hike up prices when they're monopoly, and that's just what they continue to do. I think it's going to be bad for consumers in the end. Yeah. But I mean, it will come to a point where Amazon probably just says we're going to take as much as we possibly can, and anybody that can't support that, we don't mind you leaving, because all the sales are still here, all the consumers that we have, all of our traffic is still here, and then they just say bye to all the low tier kind of sellers. And
that
is it's quite bleak.
It is, but it is like I said, 20, 30 years away. They're not going to fix something that isn't broken. Right now, it's not broken. They're making tons of money. More than 50% of all the sales on Amazon occur from third-party sellers like us. So it's not like they're going to change that model. But I mean, you'll start to see, just as with every company, they'll find ways to go in the direction that they want to go. And over 20, 30 years time, you'll start to see it being very narrow, I think. That's why I say get in, 5 years ago would be better. Today's the best. And then, have an exit plan, so that way you can leave when the time is right and cash out for a decent payday.
Okay. So, last question. What has inspired you recently? Of course, everything you've done. What's
That's a good question. I mean, obviously my life has actually quite changed in the year. I had a son, getting a new house, like a lot of things have happened. Obviously pandemics happen for everybody.
I can see behind you, you've got a drum kit and
yeah, I've got guitars here, drums, I got microphones over there, I got a little recording studio. I do play music a lot. But I think the one thing that my passion is music. And I love connecting with like-minded individuals in whatever I do. And obviously in the Amazon space, if you need help with Amazon, love connecting there. If you are a musician, love connecting there. So I think it's more about the things that bring us joy with the money that we have. So when I say inspiration, I don't mean like you have to have a lot of money to be inspired to do things. I think it's better if you just have a really good inspiration of where you want to go in life. And that's the thing that inspires me, is when I see people achieve those results, right? So then I'm like, you know what? It's still possible. Everybody can do it. So when I see people get results by following a passion, and Tony Hsieh, I don't know if you know, he's the former co-founder of Zappos. He recently died in a fire.
He didn't die
actually.
in a very inspiring way, unfortunately.
No, it's unfortunate. But yeah, his famous quote was, follow the vision, not the money. The money will follow. So if you understand where you want to go, how you want to help people, how you can serve the world better, then you'll actually be more, fit to actually make the money that you want. And I've seen it in pretty much every walk of business. So every single niche and not just Amazon, every single niche of business where the people are the most passionate about the vision that they want to achieve, that's when they're most successful. People who are just in it for money will literally do anything for money, and that drains them. They'll go off and do a bunch of other just dumb things. Like they'll try every technique and every trick and every hack, and then they all fall apart, and then they're back to square one, feeling like they can't move forward. So if you're doing it for the right reasons, you won't sabotage yourself. You won't make that business, I guess you won't neglect it like you would if you actually care about it. Okay. So I would say the thing that you need to focus on is the inspiration and the vision you have for how you want to help people. And don't think about it as selling to make money. Think about it serving to, give problems or solutions to problems.
Okay. That's very interesting. That's quite Jeff Bezos as well. Customer first. Okay.
Yeah. He's in a lot of ways, Jeff Bezos is smart and, logical and humble, but in the other ways, he's absolutely an egomaniac and a billionaire who's
I don't know. I think
way too much money to burn.
I think he's becoming a bit too. I think he's in danger of disappearing up his own arse.
Exactly.
I don't know. He had the novelist wife, and now he's dumped the novelist wife for the trophy wife.
Yeah,
and he started building
a rocket ship.
And a rocket ship. I don't know if it is just a bit of a metaphor, isn't it? Really? That's
exactly. It's like a super midlife crisis at the highest scale.
Yeah. So look, Isaac, it's been lovely speaking to you. I found it very interesting, and I hope we can speak again in the future.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Trevor. It's been awesome.
Thanks, Isaac. Okay. Bye-bye. Right, let's just stop that.